What's going on, man?
Hey, my guy, what is up? How's it
Little
going?
deja vu. It's like we're starting the season all over again.
I know it, man. I know it. I'm fired up. It's like the night before Christmas here, baby.
I'm all giddy. It's like it's really the thing that's just been fueling me through since Labor Day kind of wrapped up. We got a little taste of college football. They gave us
Yeah.
a little sprinkle of what the NFL season is going to be like with games on all day. But now we get to hear not on Thursday, obviously, when we're kicking the season off, but this weekend coming up, we're going to get what is it? The Octobox, 12 hours of commercial free football, or however he phrases it. There's all those great things that are going to start coming up for us this weekend. It just signals the beginning.
Yes.
The
Yeah, I'm
beginning.
fired up. And I love that we get to open the season up again. Obviously that means a couple things, but we get to represent the league and kind of put our stamp on the league first thing, first game here.
Oh, yeah.
And as we spoke about a little bit earlier on today, I happened to be up there at Arrowhead today for a conference for work. Got to have lunch up there in the fancy section, in the middle section there, the yellow seats. And for the folks that typically sit in the red seats, let me tell you, if you get an opportunity to sit in those yellow seats, club section, wow, there's about 3 inches of foam on those bad boys, and they are treated correctly up there in that nice fancy section up there. But man, there's a vibe going on at Arrowhead today. Everybody's outside getting the fencing up. Everybody inside is getting the lines painted on the field, getting the Chiefs tattooed on the end zone. I mean, it
Love it.
was there was a freaking vibe going on. Like it was shaking in there, and maybe that was just my head, but it was man. I felt good, and I could just like picture the national anthem. And as you know, and as I spoke last week on the show, that is like the staple for me. That's how I want to kick the football game off, and that's how we
Oh,
kick the
yeah.
NFL game off or the NFL season. Tomorrow night at Arrowhead, national anthem flyover is going to be sweet.
It's going to be nuts. I mean, just the fact that you could feel the aura of the stadium with literally just you and your coworkers there is, I mean, that speaks volumes about what Chiefs Kingdom's all about, what Arrowhead's all about, and the fact that we know and understand, what all of that means. It's just like, I mean, that's got to be driving you to get back to that feeling. Just the moment we step off the bus and into lot C11, you just feel that. You feel that energy right off the bat. And to speak on those guys that were painting the lines and putting up fences, those changeover people are impressive, man. They can flip a field in
Yeah.
no time. It is
Yep.
sick. So I'm actually jealous. That's the one thing I miss about being in sports was watching the crews. I guess working in professional sports is watching the crew change over those fields. I worked in semi-pro baseball, so we had um, we would have a 5 game homestand. There would be a Boy Scout, Girl Scout camp out that would go straight into a promotional MMA fight where they'd set up a stadium, concert the next weekend, and then, whatever promo's going on after. So just watching those guys work and crank that stuff out is freaking sick. It's like
Yep.
miracle workers.
Yeah, and they appreciate the season too. Those employees of the Chiefs, getting the field ready, like they're probably bouncing around, having a good time as
Oh,
well. But
for sure.
um, yeah, there's a vibe going on up there, and I'm sure that's going to continue on until midnight tomorrow night. But Dan,
100%.
let's jump into some news here. It was announced that Rob Riggle will be banging the drum tomorrow night for the home opener at Arrowhead. So that is always exciting. Rob Riggle, obviously a very popular face
Oh,
in
yeah.
Chiefs Kingdom, but in Kansas City as a whole. That's gonna be an exciting one. We get a lot of exciting people banging the drum, and so that'll be exciting to kick that off. There's gonna be such a like anticipation, like the 30 to 45 minutes before the game, and that's just an added layer onto the cake. One, just banging
Oh,
the drum,
yeah.
but two, having Rob Riggle do it.
If you don't have someone up there that can bring the freaking energy, and Rob Riggle can, being a professional that he is, um, there's no point in having that person up there. And a lot of times we're getting former players who can like get the crowd pumped up and get them wild. So Rob Riggle's going to turn it up. I want to say we had Paul Rudd during one of the playoff games in the last couple years come do it. There's been some other celebrities and whatnot. Tech Nine, he did it. The crowd gets freaking crazy.
Yep.
So it's awesome. It is really sick getting to see that stuff.
Absolutely. So going into kind of the technicalities of the game here, obviously the Chiefs will be tested by the Ravens. It's going to be a great game. AFC Championship rematch from last year. G Reed 9-1 in the Chiefs season openers, which our good friend Kadarius Toney did not play. So obviously last year there was a lot of heartache, and what kind of started that downward slide or trend with our wide receiver room with that tipped pass into the defender's hands of the Lions that turned into a pick six. So Andy Reid 9-1 without Toney. I like that, but
It's
looking
got
at
to feel good.
the last, let's say 10 games, we really haven't been tested like we're going to be tested tomorrow, right? AFC Championship rematch. The Ravens come back, just as strong as they were last year. It's a very good football team, obviously, and one of the top 3 teams in the AFC, if not the top 2, to be picked to be, that 1, 2, and 3 seed going into the playoffs. So it's going to be a great rematch. Obviously, compared to last year, the Detroit Lions, much better on paper. And as the Chiefs typically start seasons, not just game 1, but the first quarter of the season, we don't play lights out football. And so there's a lot of kinks to work out. And that probably goes for every football team, but big challenge here to start. And that's going to go, as soon as this game's over, the challenge doesn't end, right? With Cincinnati coming to town next week. So it's going to be a great game. Obviously the NFL wants to see a great game as the opener to the season. And what better game to get than the Ravens coming to town at Arrowhead?
And I think, your point about the Lions, no one knew what the Lions were going to be, right? They ended up being a team that would fight and claw their way to an NFC Championship game appearance, their first in like 30-something years. So no one knew, not that I'm trying to make an excuse for the team or anything, but no one knew what that team was going to be. These guys, the Ravens, we know what the team knows what they're going to be facing, right? There's not going to be any surprise or punch in the mouth. If it's going to be a situation where the Ravens end up winning the game, it's like, okay, well, that was a team that put up a fight with the Chiefs on the second biggest stage in the NFL. So, really, there's going to be fireworks regardless, but this is a big time showdown, especially, with what it kicks off. So let's take it into the injury report here, my man. So this is brought to you by the Atlas Saloon. Our partners out there in Excelsior Springs, man, they are awesome. Everything that they do for not just the community and bringing everyone together, but also, on Chiefs games, just everything that goes on, right? It's a full-time fanfare going on inside the Atlas Saloon. It's led by owners Keith and Jim. They're brewing their own beer. Keith is actually brewing the beer rather, and they're putting together some awesome flavors. I mean, award-winning stuff that's coming out of there. Theme nights. I mean, it's really nonstop fun going on. So love those guys at the Atlas Saloon. Can't wait to do a couple live shows there. We'll have to reach out to Keith and see what weeks are working best for them. So, unfortunately, Hollywood Brown, right? We saw what happened in that first preseason game, clavicle injury, collarbone injury, officially ruled out. A lot of guys on the injury report, not so much for the Ravens, but for the Chiefs, some big names, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Joe Tooney, and Wanye Morris, all dealing with some kind of injury already, all full participants, the last practice report that came out, and all are expected to play. So there's really not a ton to worry about there. But I mean, this many injuries that are being monitored, at least this soon in the season, does it give you any pause or any concern?
Yeah, I think any fan has to take a look at that and have a little bit of concern. Nick Bolton, obviously, we spoke on him several times. Chris Jones, dude's getting old. He's going to have bumps and aches. But I
Yep.
think when you look at Joe Tooney, he's made significant progress over the last 6, 7 months. So that I'm not concerned with. I think that's just a part of his recovery. I'm not really concerned on re-aggravating or anything like that. But looking at Hollywood Brown, as a situation as a whole, this is probably it is the best time if he was going to get injured in the season is right now, right? So
Right.
he hasn't solidified himself as the number one receiver, or we don't lean on him to make every third down play or every deep ball or anything like that, right? So we're wide open in what the offense can do and produce right now. So it's anybody's game as far as the receiving core, and we're not leaning on one guy to produce for us. So that part, I do feel comfortable, and the pressure's not on. And it's week one. We have a lot of football to play until the first or second week of January,
Yeah.
where things really start to count, right? So that's why when we spoke weeks ago about if Hollywood Brown ends up having to sit 3 games, the first 3 games of the season, I'm okay with that. Just so the fact that I know he's ready. He's playing around Thanksgiving. He's playing around Christmas with no hesitation at all. So we can wrap that offense around him and get him integrated into that offense.
No, absolutely. Ease him in, man. I'm cool with that. Like we saw what happened when the Chiefs did that with Jerick McKinnon a couple of seasons ago. You take these veteran guys when you're deep in a position, you ease them in, especially if they're dealing with some kind of an injury, and you know that the chemistry that Marquise Brown has been building up with Mahomes this offseason.
Yep.
They've been down in Texas working, right? Rasheed Rice, all those guys on the receiving core have been catching passes from Patrick Mahomes all off season long. So the chemistry's there. I know he's got to have his nose in that playbook if you're Andy Reid. If you're in an Andy Reid offense, rather, you have to be if you want to contribute or have a chance to contribute.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
so I know he's going to come out ready to roll whenever that collarbone gets right.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed. Yeah.
a lot of time's passed since the AFC Championship game. So back when we were wrapping up that victory in Baltimore, there was a little bit of uncertainty around the Ravens roster, and they actually turned over a ton of players. I was digging into this a little bit um, earlier this week and just kind of taking a look at, wow, there are so many key contributors, namely on the defense that I didn't realize that they had lost. I didn't realize Patrick Queen, one of their main linebackers, was gone, right? I didn't know Geno Stone, their defense, one of their safeties, had signed with the Bengals, division rival.
Woo.
Uh, Obviously, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, they both took off. Rock Yassin, another solid corner. He signs a deal elsewhere. OBJ down in Miami, probably loving it a lot more down there
Yeah. Yeah.
than in Maryland. But all of these contributors kind of jetted from Baltimore, and really their main big addition. I mean, even if you look at their draft picks, no names really pop off the board at you. Is Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Now, if there's anyone I can trust to replace the workload that Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are leaving behind, it's going to be Derrick Henry. But I mean, a lot's changed for the Baltimore Ravens since the Chiefs last played them in the title game.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think defense took a step back, but I think this opportunity for Derrick Henry is going to be monumental for him. He doesn't
It's
have
gonna
to
be
take
huge.
30 to 35 carries a game. I think we likely see 20 to 25 a game still for Derrick Henry. I think he still carries a huge load, but I think with that reduction of 20 to 30% of handoffs, I think he's going to have a great season. I have very high hopes, high projections for Derrick Henry this season. I can't root against him because he's an absolute freaking freight train running through the holes. So it's hard for me to root against him. But I think
And
that's a
he's
huge
such a
ad for the
perfect fit for
Ravens.
Baltimore.
I agree, man,
Yeah.
and I think that's also going to relieve some stress for Lamar Jackson as well, having a surefire running back there. But defense, they did take a step back, which is good for opponents like the Chiefs, like the Bengals when they have to go play the Ravens. If they can take the top off that defense, then that makes it tough. We know that Lamar Jackson has struggles when he's behind, right? He's not
Yeah.
the sit in the pocket, gunsling, come back from 14 down kind of a quarterback. He's a get up early and continue to pound the rock down your throat until mercy is given. But looking at the Chiefs side, our notable losses, number one has to be L'Jarius Sneed. Definitely, absolutely top 3 cornerback last year in the league. He was an absolute stud, top 5, and to some others. He goes down to Tennessee. Kadarius Toney gets cut last week or 2 weeks ago. And then Willie Gay, somebody we did not sign in the free agency this offseason. And he goes down to New Orleans. But those are some notable losses. And obviously the 2 big ones there are on the defensive side. And we talked about this last week where the Chiefs will likely take a small step backwards on defense, but opens up a lot more opportunity for some other guys to step up and for coaching to make those adjustments where we know the coaching on the Kansas City Chiefs sideline is flawless when it comes to drafting young guys, developing them, putting them in the right positions to be successful. And so I'm not too worried about that. But on the other side of the ball, obviously, we've made leaps and bounds when it comes to our receiving core. But I'll let you get into that a little bit.
No, I think the gains outweigh the losses for the Chiefs in this scenario. And I think the big thing is because of just how bad the receiving core was last year for Patrick Mahomes. Vast upgrade. I mean, they turned over just about every single one of those roster spots from the receiver position through the draft and through free agency, which is what you have to do whenever the performance is that bad. Unfortunately, that was the case. And you got to take hits in other areas to get there, right? Defense, wealth, a lot of riches on that side of the ball. So, Brett Veach takes a step back, looks at the roster and says, okay, I can allocate some of this money for Sneed to really just patching this receiver hole up. And if one of these guys hits, then I'm going to need money to pay that guy. So I think that's the thinking behind here. And I think ultimately the team is improved, right? As a whole.
Yeah.
I think the team is improved as a whole, as opposed to, obviously the defense, you're going to lose a few things losing L'Jarius Sneed, but he's the biggest loss on this team. And when you compare it to what the Ravens went through in this offseason, I will take this transaction list over that one any day of the week. I mean,
100%.
when you're talking multiple starters, it can be a tough situation.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I think overall we're a better football team, just like you said, and it'll be interesting to see what that team looks like week 6, week 8, week 10. Like I said earlier, it takes time to develop these Chiefs teams as we've seen in the past. So, not trying to make excuses for what we may see tomorrow. I fully believe Chiefs come out and hand the Ravens their first loss of the season and open the season up with a win. So that's where I'm at, man.
How are they going to get that done?
Well, that's a good question. I think
natural transition insert here.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, we got to get up and we got to get early. Just like I was talking about earlier, Lamar Jackson doesn't play well from behind. Whereas our offense, if we can get up, one score and make them feel that pressure all game to where Lamar Jackson feels like he has to perform flawlessly to be able to keep up with the Chiefs at whatever percent of capacity. So I think first and foremost, get up early and put points in the board and put the pressure on the Ravens offense. 2, protection. Protection with Patrick Mahomes got to be off the charts. So I when I talk about I don't expect flawlessness for the first quarter of the season from the Chiefs, really I mean, what does that look like from a quarterback to receiver standpoint? I think that's the most highlighted area in the first quarter of the season, where we have a lot, or not a lot, but we have a few issues trying to work out kinks. But pass protection is pass protection, right? So I that has to be nailed down. That has to be, figured out early on. Game 1, that's got to be squared away, right? So that is a solid key for me. The third one for me is going to be the run game. all my keys here are on offense. But Pacheco's got to get started early. This needs to be an 80-yard game, 1 touchdown, kind of a game for
Yeah.
Pacheco. He's got to get started early. Make the Ravens defense, just wear them down to nothing. Where we're sitting at halftime, 17-10, 14-10, a score around there, and we're feeling rejuvenated coming out of the locker room, where the Ravens defense is feeling like they've already played a full game. So
Yep.
put it on early and do it with the run game, and create those lanes downfield for what this offense could be as a take the top off offense later on in the season.
Love it. Love it. Let's set the tone, man. Let's set the tone for this season and what the Chiefs are going to be doing. I think the big thing you said there was about making Lamar Jackson work for it from behind, right? If you're putting the Ravens in a position where he has to work you from the pocket, it more often than not does not work out in the Ravens' favor. And unfortunately, it's because it takes away Lamar's biggest strength, which is just having to game plan every single snap for the dynamic element that he brings to the field, right? If he's working from the pocket, I will give him this, right? He can scramble out of that at any time. And if we're making him work the pocket, we have to have, like, the Chiefs have to have a spy on him at all times to make sure that he is not breaking too far out of the pocket and running him out of bounds before he can get that first down and convert in these scenarios. So that's in addition to that a big thing that needs to come through. Now, from a pass protection standpoint, the Chiefs fortified that offensive line with a long-term contract extension of Creed Humphrey, drafting a left tackle who has already earned that spot to start. Hopefully what we see as fans is an upgrade above Donovan Smith, so that we can continue to push that. Now, Justin Madubuike, defensive tackle for the Ravens, big time sack generator, Chris Jones Jr. type of player, if you will. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how well that interior line is able to block him out of, really just creating an impact in this game. And I think a big piece of that I have a question mark about is Joe Thuney coming off of that pectoral injury. He had some lingering issues in the offseason. I think that's something that's going to be worth watching. And I just, I trust that he's going to come out and ball. Otherwise, they wouldn't put him in. He's not going to put the team in that kind of a position.
He's a freaking warrior, too.
Oh, yeah. The guy's a freaking stud. Future Hall of Famer. So, those are big things that kind of stuck out to me with what you're saying, too. Now, if we're looking on the other side, right, the last home opener that we went to, the Lions took the Chiefs down. A couple big time mistakes. Ultimately, I don't know about you, but whenever people talk about a loss, it's either the team beat you or you beat yourself.
Yeah.
Right. I think the Chiefs beat themselves in that particular game, not to take anything away from the Lions, but there were some key plays where, if the Chiefs had just executed, right, if Tony had just caught the damn ball and not tipped it for a pick six, that's a game flipper.
Yep.
That's a game flipper. So those are those pieces that you look at, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. But with this particular scenario with the Ravens, I think they have a potential to beat the Chiefs as opposed to the Chiefs beating themselves. But that's a big thing that I think the Chiefs need to avoid too. How can the Ravens beat the Chiefs?
I think that starts with, just like we talked about earlier, Derrick Henry and Lamar on the ground game. I think if Derrick Henry gets established early and their first drive goes for 10 minutes, I think that's where we've seen the Chiefs, or I know that's where we've seen the Chiefs struggle in the past, is where our best football player is spending time on the sideline instead of slinging the rock on the football field, right? Where, teams get, a drive that's 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 12 minutes and 15 plays. And that's kind of where the game drags out and our defense gets worn down to nothing up front. And if Derrick Henry gets going early and they keep him fresh throughout the game, Lamar Jackson gets his touches on the run game, I think that's where we'll start to run into some troubles with that front seven getting tired early. Number two is going to be create or really take advantage of Chiefs mistakes, whether that's a turnover or that is continuous penalties like we saw last season, or that's
Yeah.
mistakes like you were talking about with the drop pass that goes for a pick six the other way. If they can take advantage of those small things and turn them into, script flippers where they're flipping the field on us, or they're making a fumble into 7 points, or
Hmm.
or the punt game is on point and they're dropping us in on the 3 yard line and things like that, then that's going to create that heavier burden for the Chiefs offense to be able to overcome and try to squeeze out this game. So those are the 2 big points that I got. And one of those really goes on the Chiefs. How do you plan to mitigate those mistakes on the football field, right? And back to my point
100%.
again, I've hammered this 3 or 4 times at this point, but the Chiefs aren't going to be flawless in game one, and so when those mistakes happen, what is the response, and can we overcome those hurdles?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a lot to expect a team to come in week one fully in mid-season form. I mean, there's a reason why that term exists when you're in mid-season form. It's
Yep.
because you've worked out all of the kinks. Like, there's less preseason games than there used to be, and these guys are learning sheets and sheets and sheets of plays and motions, and those terms change week in and week out, signals meaning different things, a rotation of what that means. There's a lot that goes into getting comfortable and making that a muscle memory for these players on both sides of the ball. So, with that being said, those mental mistakes can cause you to be undisciplined, and I think that's a scenario where the Chiefs can beat themselves.
Yep.
But it's also a scenario where the Ravens need to focus whenever they're in Arrowhead.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, agreed.
It
100%.
is
That's a
going
good
to be
point.
rowdy, crazy. I mean, that's the MO for
Yep.
Arrowhead. But when you factor in the fact that they're dropping the second consecutive Super Bowl banner that night, the national anthem's going to be playing. I know Trey's going wild for that one. The flyover is going to get everyone juiced up. I mean,
Yep.
there's just going to be all of
Yep.
this. There's going to be that aura in the air
Matchup
of
from the
Arrowhead.
AFC Championship. Yeah, there's a lot on the line here, and that creates pressure. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
And
100%.
it
100% it
really
does.
really comes down to who can perform under that pressure. I know Lamar Jackson was asked that this week if he feels like he has to win the rematch, and he said every game feels like a rematch, and he can't go out looking at every game as a rematch, and he's just trying to win game by game. So I respect that, but
Yeah.
um, Dan, with that being said, week one, we're kicking off the NFL season. Who needs this game more, the Chiefs or the Ravens?
I think the Ravens need it more, and I'll tell you what, it has nothing to do um with the Chiefs. It has everything to do with the division that they're in, right? They're playing that's top to bottom in my mind the best division in the NFL. You have a Browns team that has one of the best defensive units in the league, one of the best defensive players, period, in the league. Their offense is loaded up with plenty of weapons. Deshaun Watson, when he is right, he can lead an offense to become a high scoring affair. Joe Burrow is back and healthy. Jamar Chase is about to get paid, right? Those guys are motivated to show that they're not a one hit wonder coming off of that Super Bowl win or Super Bowl loss. And um, even further, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are never going to roll over. It doesn't matter who
Yep. Yep.
is on that roster. Guys never had a season below 500. And
Right.
I mean, honestly, Russell Wilson, as corny as he is like the perfect fit for a Steelers type of offense, right? They're run first, pass later, very physical, and he is a perfect game manager.
Yep.
I mean, to tell you
Yep.
the truth, whenever he falls in line, I think if any coach is going to get him to right the ship, it's Mike Tomlin, and
Yeah. Good
there's a
point.
more dynamic quarterback waiting in the wings in case that doesn't work in Justin Fields. So the pressure is on the Ravens to pick up as many of these AFC wins outside of the division as they can, and I think that's why they have a little more pressure than the Chiefs do.
Yeah. Sure. I think there's much more. I agree. I think the Ravens need this win more than the Chiefs, just simply because the Chiefs have proven that they don't need to win the game one to go win the Super Bowl, right? As we saw last year. But also, despite what Lamar Jackson said this week, I think that was actually today or yesterday, he said that about having pressure for the rematch. I think there is a shitload of pressure on the Ravens to come in and beat the Chiefs after
Oh
getting
yeah.
beat in the AFC Championship last year. Obviously they have to say a certain thing for the camera and create that. He's trying to be a leader on the camera, and he's got boundaries of what he can and can't say on the camera as far as from the team aspect. But
Right.
there's no questioning that the pressure is on for the Ravens to win this, and I would put money on that if we gauge the Ravens fan base on how they feel about this game and what they feel like this game means to them, it means freaking everything, right? They want to come in and they want to beat the shit out of the Chiefs because they lost their opportunity to go to the Super Bowl last year because of us, right? So,
Mhm.
I think I think it is on the Ravens, and I think the counter argument to that is that Cincinnati comes to town for the Chiefs next week, right? So we have to play two top tier teams in the
Back
first
to
2 weeks
back.
of the season. And if the Chiefs, I'm surprised these conversations haven't started already. If the Chiefs start 0-2, what does that mean for the Chiefs season, right? I can already picture it right now. Chiefs are 0-2. Oh my God, are they even going to
World's on
get the
fire.
7th seed? Yeah, yeah. I mean, is Andy Reid on the hot seat? Shit like that. I mean, it's
Oh
crazy to
God.
even think about that. But
That's
um,
dramatic.
yeah, I mean, all the pressures in Baltimore right now,
Oh yeah.
and quite honestly, I love that. And even if the pressure was on Kansas City, I'd love that too, because this team, they produce under pressure. But I don't think Baltimore is built for that.
Yep, they proved that last year when they couldn't stretch that ball over the 1 yard line without fumbling. So I mean, we'll see if they learn from the mistakes, right?
We
We'll see if
shall
the
see.
Ravens learn from those things. But man, I can't wait to get in there and see what this end result is going to be. Before we wrap the show, we are going to touch on our bets. With the NFL coming back, it is that time of the year again where we can bet on some sports. Quick shout out to our partners at One Drop Candle Company. They're putting out some fantastic scents. Joel Graybill, owner of the company, he's been popping up to different areas, First Fridays, Hy-Vee, putting out some great scents there. So make sure you check out their website, onedropcandleco.com. The line, according to FanDuel, Chiefs are favored by 3 points. So they're saying if this is a neutral site, we're flipping a coin. We're deciding who's going to win
Yep.
off that. The point total, 47.5 points. Books getting the kicker there. I like the over, man. I like the over. I think the offense is going to put up some points on both sides. I like the Chiefs to cover. I think this is a home win by 6 points. So if you want to take the alt there, feel free. From a prop perspective, they're looking juicy. Honestly, like all these player props look freaking sick, but the two that stuck out to me the most, Derrick Henry, 66 and a half rushing yards, slam the over, take your mortgage and put it on it. I cannot give you financial advice. That's my disclaimer. Travis Kelce, 58 and a half receiving yards. That's an over, right? No Patrick Queen. Obviously, Roquan Smith's going to be there over the middle, but they can't cover everybody. We got weapons all over the place in Kansas City. So I'm taking Kelce over in receiving. And for my parlay, it's a Pacheco Henry anytime touchdown parlay at plus 244. That's the juice, baby. That's the
That's
juice.
the juice.
Put your
Love to hear
cheese
that.
on it.
So I'm going KC -3 as well. I'm gonna hit these hot and heavy real quick, Dan. I'm
Yes,
taking
sir.
the under on 47. I think offensive start out a little bit slow for both sides coming out in the first game. Also, I think the Ravens come out running the ball pretty heavy after what we saw in the AFC Championship last year, where they ran the ball all damn season and then decided not to run the ball in the AFC Championship and lost because of it. So on top of that, anything Derrick Henry, I'm jumping all over that. Just like you said on the rushing yards, 66 yards. That's a damn joke. The man's going to run for at least 80. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's where I'm at on those picks. I didn't put it together a parlay. I just like anything Derrick Henry. I like the under on 47. I like KC -3.
Love it. Love it. I think the under 47 is a little scary, but I could see this being a 27-24 game. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Or
I could see a
27-21
AFC.
game.
I could see AFC Championship rematch. I mean, like a 17-10, 17-13, 20 to
Mm,
17 kind of a deal.
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I just think Mahomes gonna light it up. I think they're gonna want to come out passing, but maybe that's the trickery.
It's the trickery,
That's the
baby.
trickery. They get all these receivers in so that they can run power I.
I think we're just gonna run fullback sneak with freaking Steele the whole game and
They're
call
gonna
it a
run
day.
halfback toss and fullback dive.
Yeah, fullback dive. There it is. Yeah. All right,
Oh
Chiefs
man.
fans. It is Christmas Eve of the NFL season, and the Chiefs are kicking it off for us tomorrow night
We
at
made it.
Arrowhead. You're going to be listening to this tomorrow during the game day. Make sure you got your red on. Make sure you listen to the Fastest 40. Be sure to share the show with your friends that are also Chiefs fans, but more importantly, Ravens fans, so they can hear us talk shit about their team. So let's get rowdy tomorrow, Chiefs fans, and let's have a good time. Don't drink and drive. Have fun. Be safe. And let's go, Chiefs.
Be safe, y'all. Go Chiefs.